evening and welcome to BizNews. I'm Elizabeth Lee together with Tony Lopez.
Good evening, Beth.
Tonight we have for our guests the TOYM Awardees, starting with Dr. Castor Diocaris, who is awarded for Science Communications. Welcome to our show, Doc.
Thank you.
Then we have Dr. Al Gabriel, who is awarded for Food Science and Technology, who's also an educator, a researcher, and a public servant. And then we have Ivan Henares, who is awarded for Heritage Conservation. And we have Mark Manalo, who is the national chairperson for the TOYM Search Committee with JCI Philippines.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Good evening, and congratulations for being awardees of TOYM.
Thank you.
I must say the 2013 batch is one of the best batches ever of the TOYM. Ilan years na bang Mark ang TOYM? 41?
For 50 plus years.
Oh, for half a century. Yeah, because we are more and more we are getting scientists.
Yes.
There are more scientists
Yes.
now.
More scientists, less politicians.
Kasi dati ang daming dati ang daming bankers.
No, we're going to
Dati
know
ang
why
daming
it's so
bankers,
important. Yeah.
yeah.
So, but just very quickly, Mark, tell us what are the requirements or on
To be a
choosing
TOYM
the
winner.
winners?
Yeah.
Because they have to be outstanding.
Yeah, for the honorees, they should be from 18 to 40 years old. And they must be Filipino citizens, and they must show exemplary actions or contributions to the community as regards their field of expertise. And may I just add, we call them honorees because
honorees,
yes, we call them honorees because precisely they are doing their own work, their own field of expertise without any regard to whatever awards that they will be having. So I think before they were honorees, they didn't even know about the OYM.
Yeah.
So precisely that's what we honor, those people who are selflessly contributing to the society.
And that's the reason why they're
They are the
outstanding.
ones that lend prestige to TOYM
And not the other way
TOYM
around.
to the
Yes, precisely.
honorees.
We honor them
Yeah.
precisely because we want to be like them. So as members of JCI Philippines, we would also want to contribute something like them to our society.
So how many were in the pool of nominees, if you will? How many?
It depends per year. For last year, we had 59 submissions for the honorees, and we had 17 finalists. And with the 17 finalists, they had interviews, and 9 finally were honored last year.
And
Nine.
Okay.
9 honorees.
All right. So we'll start with Dr. Castor. If I'm going to rattle out what you do, we're going to be here till tomorrow. But you're actually a biotechnologist and science communications. Tell us about that. You laymanize science. And what do you do and why is it important?
Well, I'm a molecular biologist and a chemist. That's my PhD, and a neuroscientist. That's my postdoctoral work. And I came back to the Philippines as a balik scientist and found out that there's a big gap between science and the scientists, the community, the public, and scientists. So I went into science communication. I have my own show. Can I mention it here?
Yes, you can.
It's at Radyo Aguila. You may watch DZEC 1062 every Sunday, 5 to 6, Pinoy Scientist.
Eagle Broadcasting.
Yes.
Sa ano yan, no? Religious group.
It's a commercial station.
Commercial. Yeah.
So what do you communicate? What do you?
Well, I
Most
get
Filipinos
issues
don't
from...
understand science.
Yes, but we try to give it a little panache.
Yeah.
Something like I get issues from scientists, and then we package it into something like we relate it to a little bit of showbiz. Like last weekend, my issue was about neuroscience of dissociative identity disorder. There's a television show on
Naku, ano ibig
DID.
sabihin nun?
It's a split personality. So we talked about how the brain fragments memories with a neuroscientist. And people get interested because they watch the show and they find out about the science behind it.
So what you essentially do is try to laymanize.
Yes,
so
and inspire people. That's very important because you have to inspire young people to get into the sciences because there are too few scientists in the country. And based on statistics, it's nothing compared to Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand. We're really behind the race. So we need to inspire people to get into the sciences.
Yes.
That will help the economy in the long term.
Yes, I agree. Okay, now we're going to go to Doc Al Gabriel. You are awarded for food science and technology.
Honored in the award.
Yes, I was.
Honored. Yes. And then you do food microbiology and hygiene.
Yes.
It's very important now.
Yes, of course. especially that recently the government has approved the Food Safety Act of the Philippines. It's very important that every one of us, including the consumers, most especially consumers, know about the basics of food safety, how to handle food properly. It's very important that we have at least working knowledge on how these things work.
Pati GMO, inawakan mo.
Hindi naman po. But basically, I'm a food microbiologist, so microbial food hazards po. Bacteria,
Bacteria and
yeast,
food.
and molds.
Yeah. So what do you say to like audiences when we have like a hawker's market or the ones on the sidewalk vendors?
Okay, so I work for the university, University of the Philippines, where my work is with the students. So I ask my students to develop educational materials that can be easily understood by these people, by hawkers, by let's say mothers, pregnant women who, in order for them to prepare food for their babies.
So give an example.
For example, last semester we developed this educational materials for yayas, for the yayas of small children. Usually when their parents are away, it's the yayas who prepare food.
Right.
We teach them how to...
What mistakes do they normally make?
Hygiene problem. Usually they forget how to properly wash their hands. They abuse the food, time and temperature. We have basic rules in food safety. For example, you cannot just place your food on tabletops for longer than 4 hours. That's a very common mistake that people commit. And that's the start of problem, especially with children. When they have diarrhea, it results to stunting. They have growth problems after that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now we're going to talk to Ivan just real quick. You're awarded for heritage conservation. If you've given heritage a voice, what does that actually mean? Why is it very important? Why should we place more importance on that?
Tatanong ko lang a stupid question. What is heritage ba?
Of course, heritage covers a wide array of things. There's tangible and intangible heritage. Intangible meaning our dances, songs, literature, and of course you have the tangible heritage, things you can touch like sculpture, and then between intangible there's immovable and movable. So for the Heritage Conservation Society, we actually focus on the immovable heritage, which is architectural heritage or built heritage. So our advocacy really is to make sure that the architectural heritage is preserved, because these are reminders of our culture, and unfortunately as property prices go up,
That's
we
right.
start losing
Iba na,
all these
ano bang broader?
heritage
Culture or
structures.
heritage?
Well, I'd say culture.
Which is part of which? Heritage is part of culture, culture is part of heritage.
I'd say heritage is part of culture, no. But going back to architectural heritage, we're losing a lot of our architectural heritage because many owners don't understand or don't realize the value of the buildings that they own. In fact, in other countries, architectural heritage is very important. And,
Do you have specific sites that
well,
you're...
like for example, Escolta is an example of a
Yes.
place which is very rich in architectural heritage.
Yung heritage, when you put a McDonald's in front of Jose Rizal Monument, that's destruction of heritage.
Of course, we have heritage towns around the Philippines like Vigan, Taal, Silay, Karkar. They're all over the country.
But there are certain aspects of heritage that we should extinguish for life, like bad politicians. They are part of our heritage.
I don't think bad politicians fall
Those
under
are the
heritage.
movable heritage.
It's part of our heritage. There has been corruption.
Those are the
Forgettable.
movable and forgettable.
Bad elections. Diba? Part of our heritage.
But Ivan's conserving the
Those are
good
the things
part.
that we
Good
should
part,
extinguish
And
immediately.
particularly the architectural heritage. It's very, very important because these are basically reminders of our history, our political history, our cultural history, and the creativity of Filipinos through the years. We're not just talking about architects, but even our forefathers, especially during the colonial period. People say, why that's Spanish architecture, that's American architecture. Actually, we correct them and we say that's Philippine architecture during the Spanish colonial period and Philippine architecture during the American colonial period, because the houses built during the Spanish colonial period, they're not Spanish houses. You can't find them anywhere else in the world. I mean, the capichels, the bahay na bato, you can't find that anywhere else in the world.
Problema
so
sa
that
heritage
is-
conservation, pera,
Yes.
Pera.
It's actually an issue, and we're
Kamukha
trying
ng ginawa sa
to...
High Alive Building.
Yes.
One of the finest examples of ang tawag doon, Art Deco architecture.
Art Deco, yes. Very
Yeah.
important Art Deco
Very
building.
few exists today.
And
And yet
that-
we destroyed it in the name supposedly of justice. Kasi gagawin justice all na hindi naman natuloy.
Oo
In the
nga eh.
meantime, na-destroy yung building.
It's actually an empty lot now.
All right, we're going to continue this discussion. That's really sad. We're going to continue this discussion. We'll be right back. You're watching BizNews.
Dr. Foster, how relevant is your kind of work or expertise today?
In what sense?
Which problem can it solve, your expertise?
Oh, you mean science communication?
Well,
Well, of course,
di ba ang expertise mo? Microbiology,
molecular biology,
chemistry,
Yes.
and neuro, ano ba?
neuroscience.
Neuroscience.
And that
Pag
includes
sinabing neuro,
aging.
doc,
Yes.
it involves nerves, hindi naman, brain.
Yes, the brain.
Oh. So, bali, you deal with the brain, chemistry, and molecules.
Yes.
Oh, biology.
So my work before...
Life.
Yes.
In effect,
my-
you deal with life.
Ang work ko before, my postdoctoral work was involved with how people create memories.
Ang memories.
Yes, that's neuroscience and how you can improve memory retention. And we studied the molecular basis of how if an old person undergoes exercise activity, there's a stem cell part there's a stem cell fraction.
So, Alzheimer, kaya mo din yung ano yan? Bigyan
Alzheimer's
ng
difficult because
approach
the
or
brain
solution?
is a little bit poisoned already. Marami siya mga amyloid plaques na sinasabi. Saka mas gusto ko yung ita-target yung mga children, kabataan, at saka yung mga estudyante.
Anong
To push them
memory?
to go-
Learning memory o trauma memory?
Oh.
Ba, na-accident, na amnesia. Sino ka?
More of yung mga autobiographical episodic, short-term working memory. Ito yung mga gagamitin mo for study. Kasi I'm advocating that schools would push for improving their PE programs because if you let
Improving what?
PE programs, physical
Physical
education,
education.
programs, ito yung mga programa ng edukasyon na hindi
It helps
binibigyan
improve
pansin.
memory?
Of course. Because if you make
For all ages.
for all ages.
Yeah.
So if you make kids move for 1 hour, we found out that you can stimulate the stem cell fraction to create new memories. And therefore, you can be more intelligent.
The more active you are, the more active are the cells.
Yes.
And the more active are the cells, the more intelligent you become.
You can become more intelligent in a way.
Now you also do like this on aging and regenerative medicine.
Yes, because I'm also because we're targeting in Japan. I did my postdoctoral work in Japan. We're targeting old people. We want them to stay.
Japan is one of the
to
oldest populations.
Yes, we
Yes.
want to counter cognitive decline. And one way
The
is to
average
develop
age there is
exercise
78,
activity. Yes,
So exercise and activity is one of those.
one
of
major
those.
or one of the best ways to improve memory. You move.
Well, how about all these stem cell things? Is that
We have
it's-
stem cells in the brain, so that's what I'm
But
targeting.
the therapy, the stem cell therapy, and all those things. What do you think about
What's
those?
my stand about it?
Yeah.
Well, we only have 3 accepted therapies for stem cells, and that's for
You mean number of
hematologic.
professionals?
Yes. You have your skin for skin grafting, and I think your corneal grafting or corneal transplant. So those are the 3 things that have been approved by
Yung mga
FDA.
stem cell treatment,
So the-
Yung mga
Really?
anti-aging,
Yeah.
those are wala
naman.
silang basihan.
Okay.
And you cannot make people and patients into guinea pigs and let them pay millions.
Really? Yeah.
Because a lot of people now are paying like 2 million, 4 million for
They fly to
therapies
Germany
that
or
are
something.
not
Right.
approved and that have not been
So,
tested.
bali you favor regulation, tighter regulation.
Tighter regulation, but you push people to do more research. Kasi if you just commercialize something that is questionable, you don't do research anymore, you just get money.
Yeah.
Si Al
But if-
naman, you're also a scientist, no?
Yes,
Ang
yes.
area mo, food.
I'm a food
The conventional
microbiologist.
wisdom is cleaner, the better.
Yes, no.
Ako tingin ko, the dirtier, the better. Because the more dirt you are, the
It
more
builds your
the immunity.
immunity.
Well,
Diba?
some people will
Kasi
tell,
kung
no,
meron
there's-
kang baby, lagi mo ina-alcohol.
Yeah, so
saka
there's this
ina-
belief that
that's
there's
bad,
no
diba?
harm in eating some organisms, no, microorganisms sometimes. So, but the thing is, we always eat microorganisms. No, our food, all of the food products that we eat every day, especially fresh fruits and vegetables, contain some levels of microorganisms, and not all organisms are bad. No?
Kasi ako, tingin
Most
ko,
of
the
the
Philippines is
organisms
one
are
of the
good.
strongest
Actually,
immunities to all kinds of germs and threats.
we don't have scientific data for
Because
that.
we have the corrupt politicians, the bank robbers, the snatchers, saka yung all kinds of dirt all around, di ba?
Yes, sir.
Sama mo na yung
spiritual.
smugglers dyan.
And smugglers. Right. Yeah, but no,
Kasi
going
yung
back to
conventional
that,
wisdom, naku, nakakadiri. Dapat humawa ka ng nakakadiri. Di ba?
Well,
So what do you
we're
say about
exposed.
that? When you say if you build your
Immune
immunity-
system.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, from
Di ba
when we're
malakas
born,
yung
no?
system ng Pilipino? Would you agree?
I cannot
Would you
say.
agree?
Well, we don't have data on that.
Yeah.
Probably Castor can help us. But, well, our body develops immunity to several microorganisms, for example, because as we grow old, as we grow up, we're exposed to different organisms, and our body remembers that. So, yeah, and
So our body knows how to fight it off to a
yes,
certain
yes,
extent.
yes. And, well, there's an emerging field in science that deals with the microbiome. Each person will have a signature of microorganisms living on and in them. Scientists will tell you that we are only 10% human because there are 10 times more microorganisms on our body than our own cells. So, and these
Ano
organisms...
ba difference
Really?
ng
Help us.
microorganism
what's-
sa cell?
Yeah,
Sir?
what's
Ano ba
what's that?
difference ng microorganism sa cell? Di ba
Our
they're the
own
same?
cells are our skin cells, human cells. No, and if we count all the human cells on us and in us, there are 10 times more microorganisms. No? The intestines, for example, are teeming with microorganisms, but these are not bad organisms. These organisms help us digest some carbohydrates, give us energy. And most of these organisms protect us from the bad organisms. So there are
Yeah.
only 10%. Minority of the
Ilan ba ang
organisms
cells
don't
ng
have
human
bad.
body, Doc?
This is we have around 100 trillion, if I'm not
100
mistaken.
trillion?
Yeah.
So kung 10 times yung microorganism, ilan yon? 1 billion?
Yeah, so, no, if we have 10 raised to the 13 human cells,
Oh.
so, and the bacterial cells in our body and on us are 10 raised to the
1,000
14. I cannot
trillion.
even read anymore. But there's a lot of
Al
organisms.
is correct. We're only 10% humans. There are more microorganisms in our bodies, and they're also controlling the brain.
The brain.
There's a new
So we
field
have a corrupted
now.
brain from the birth start?
We're actually hacked.
No, but when humans are born, we are actually sterile. But the moment we come out of our moms, we become colonized with organisms. But we
So,
get our
within
first
our
organisms
body,
of our
constant yung
moms. Actually.
bakbakan ng
Good and
microbes
bad.
saka ng native cells.
Our immune cells, yes. But the good ones are usually allowed to proliferate because they help us.
They must be the
Actually.
most hardworking cells on earth, no?
Probably.
Kasi ang guerrilla ratio, 10 to 1 So your body must be really very healthy and disciplined.
Well,
to
all of our
fight those
bodies are. No?
microorganisms,
There should be
no?
there should be
What's
balance.
food defense?
Food defense is actually an emerging concern. No? It's actually, well, probably 10 years ago, we're only concerned with food safety. Food safety deals with hazards in foods that are naturally occurring. Let's say, for example, toxins in puffer fishes. These are naturally occurring
Yeah.
hazards. But now we're also concerned with food defense. Food defense is actually concerned with defending our food from toxins or hazards that are intentionally added. No? So bioterroristic in nature.
Yung
So-
GMO, hindi.
Not really, but it started after the 9/11, no, when the U.S. actually found agricultural documents in Osama bin Laden's cave. So they were surprised. Why is he translating agricultural
Next
documents?
God.
area
They were
of
planning to attack
terrorism,
the
food,
food system.
food
Because that's what
supply.
we eat. Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes.
the.
If you think about that's very smart because
Yes.
you don't even need
That's
to
right.
work in the White House. You just need to eat, right? And you'll be part of that equation of
Actually,
harming
the
people.
guys like Bin Laden, they apply the laws of physics, chemistry, and agriculture very
My
well.
terrorists are very
Kasi
smart.
dati
Yeah.
conventional
Smarter than the
wisdom,
others,
Smart,
Mike.
how do you
smart,
bring
smart.
down a building? Dati ba, pasasabugin mo sa ilalim.
Exactly.
Yung pala, aeroplano lang, lalagyan mo na maraming gasolina, saka mo pa babangga.
So that's our
Gusto,
challenges.
pati
The
yung
challenges
mga
that we face now
steel
are
bars.
very serious.
But so now we not only have to deal with food defense, we also have to defend ourselves from all
Heritage.
the heritage.
Destruction
all-
of heritage.
That's right. But before we get to Ivan, we're going to cut to a short break. You're watching BizNews. We're speaking with the TOYM honorees. We'll be right back.
Ivan, which particular piece of heritage have you worked so hard to preserve?
Well, I'm from San Fernando, Pampanga, and as a college student, I started the heritage conservation campaign there. So we have a lot of ancestral houses. We have the old train station, which was built during the Spanish colonial period, and a lot of other heritage structures. So the city actually has an ordinance which we enacted in order to create a heritage district in the city.
Meron kayong heritage district, ala vegan.
Well, it's not, of course, it's not as well preserved as vegan, but we have a row of old houses in the city which we are actually preserving. In fact, many of them are declared by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines as heritage houses.
But Ivan, the problem is money. That's why
Yes,
if
that's
there's
true.
no money, they're looking at the return on their
Yes, that's
investment
right.
on the
Pero sa
land.
kanila, sa Pampanga, the best houses there were built by the rich, ano?
Well,
Kasi that's a place where land ownership, feudalism was so rampant and extensive.
you can
That's
put
why
it that
so many rebellions grew out of that place, di ba? Yung People's Army, Hukbalahap, di ba?
But you have to remember also that we also lost our socialist heritage a decade ago, no? Yung bahay ni Pedro Abad Santos ay giniba noong mga 1999-2000. The city was trying to save it at the time. In fact, yung
It was demolished because
because the owners needed the funds, no? And the city tried
Eh,
to.
nga yung bahay nga ng
Yeah,
nanay ni
so-
Rizal, eh. Yung bahay ng nanay ni Rizal, binenta, eh.
So how do we defend against
Well,
that, Ivan?
that's
how do we get
actually
the money in?
that's actually the awareness we are trying to raise right now, and I think the tragedy that happened in Bohol heightened the awareness for
Yeah.
heritage. People suddenly realized that heritage could disappear just like that,
Yeah.
and
Right.
government funding is starting to come in. In fact, many of the churches will be restored by the government because they are declared national cultural treasures.
Wala bang lawyer ngayong bawal mag-breakdown ng old houses?
We
Kasi
actually
I know in
have-
Germany and most parts of Europe, you cannot just bring down a house.
We actually have the
Even if
heritage.
you own it.
And the
Even
design,
if you own it.
if you are putting
Yes.
a new house, putting up the design must conform to the
Unfortunately,
street
here in
design.
the Philippines, although we have the
Wala tayong
heritage
ganong
law, no?
consciousness, eh, no?
We have a heritage
we have a
law.
heritage law, and but unfortunately, it's very difficult to implement. The number one reality is our government cultural agencies don't have legal departments. So if cases need to be filed, they'll still have to go to the Solicitor General. So it's very difficult. Second is that there are no rules for style. So if you build in a heritage district, there are
Walang
no
style.
walang
Style.
walang mga style guides na pwede gamitin, which are very important, no. Dito kasi sa Pilipinas, chapsuy ang ating mga design, no?
Bakit? Tingnan mo na lang, Evan, yung National Museum. That's one of the worst national museums you can ever visit.
But I would like to beg to disagree on that because the National Museum has actually
Tapos
improved.
palipat-lipat pa siya.
It's actually improved. If you've seen the National Museum lately, it's wonderful. It's impressive what they've done. They've been able to bring out all the collections from
And we
storage.
don't have a consciousness of visiting museums.
That's why
we don't know how to look back to the past.
That's why what
When
the National
actually
Museum
the
is doing
Philippines,
now.
the Filipino people, have one of the greatest heritages.
That's why what the
This,
National
ano,
Museum
this
is
world,
doing
diba?
right
Yeah.
now is very impressive. In fact, a third museum will be opening in the
Meron
next
third
2 years.
museum?
Yung,
Which is the
Nas-
second one?
No, because there are 3 buildings. No, the National Museum has 3 buildings. You have the National Art Gallery, which was the former legislative building, and then you have the Museum of the Filipino People, which
Tourism.
used to be that's the Museum of Natural History, which will be opening in 2 to 3 years from now, most probably. It's a very beautiful adaptive reuse plan which they are doing. That's why our National Museum is actually very impressive. What they've been doing, If you've
Very
seen-
impressive.
very impressive. If you've seen the National Art Gallery lately, you will be proud to be a Filipino.
Ivan, how do you create all this awareness? Because we have to go back to
Yes.
our roots. And like you said, what happened in Bohol, suddenly we're like, oh my gosh, we don't want that to be destroyed. So how do we defend
awareness,
ourselves?
Kasi awareness, we have very peripheral approach to the study of history. We are
Well,
not history
Do you use
conscious.
like the internet? Do you
Yes,
have
we use the
blogs?
internet.
You have-
We use the internet. We use media. We go on TV. And again, what happened in Bohol actually was an eye opener for everyone.
Yeah.
We were like talking to each other. Suddenly, everyone's a heritage advocate after Bohol, and you could see
Which
that
is good.
everyone was really mourning the loss of the churches.
Yes.
But on the other side, the challenges continue, and it's very important now for government to realize that heritage plays an important part in our country, and it can also bring economic growth through cultural tourism. I mean, when you go to other countries, when you go to even our neighboring countries, we visit the heritage. So
Yeah.
if we are going to raise the Philippine heritage, what are tourists going to come to the Philippines for?
Yeah. So, quick question: if somebody owns an old house and it looks like it's something that should be preserved, but the person needs money.
Yes.
But so now there's a developer who
The answer
says,
there is contact this guy Akusar.
Actually, we are not in favor of what transferring houses. It's not good for heritage.
to actually transfer.
Yes, you're not supposed to transfer houses.
So what
We
can
don't-
the owner do? What can
Well,
the owner
there
do?
are a lot of possibilities. Number one is that you can have your house declared, and once it is declared, there's a possibility that you can ask government funding for it. But there are a lot of restrictions when your house is declared. Of course, number one, you can't demolish it.
Ibang one of the most ridiculous acts of transferring houses, yung kay Mabini. Si Mabini pilay, hindi siya nakakalakad. Pero yung bahay niya, palipat-lipat ng lugar. Di ba?
Yes, the
Diba? Do you agree, Ivan?
replica.
Oh, that's how ridiculous our situation is.
But again, we do not agree with the transfer of houses because you're basically taking out the heritage from a community. In fact, Binyan is up in arms because they don't want to lose the house of Teodora Alonso. No? In fact,
hinila niya, di ba?
well, it's still there.
It's now in Bataan.
The shell is still in Binyan. No? They have the mayor hasn't granted a demolition permit because she wants to keep the house there. So it's actually a stalemate. But the sad part is parts of the house collapsed because they took the inside to Bataan. What you see in Bataan right now is actually a replica of the outside. So the interior is the one from Binyan. No? So there are a lot of issues which we really have to consider here. No? And in fact, like for example, we lost the Abad Santos house in San Fernando, Pampanga. It had an NHI marker. Very important, the house of Chief Justice Abad Santos and Pedro Abad Santos. I heard that even the house of General Trias in General Trias Cavite was also demolished. And there are so many stories of communities losing their heritage, which is why we're trying to raise that awareness because, these are very important aspects of our history, and they can also bring economic growth.
It's part and parcel of our DNA as Filipinos.
Yes.
So we have to protect. We have to protect.
Which is why we're very excited about Escolta. Escolta right now, the whole community, the building owners are meeting almost every week. I think every week, and they're trying to find ways to revive the district and highlighting its heritage. So we will see some good news in Escolta, hopefully in the next few years.
Now, Mark, the crop of honorees for TOYM actually has been, like Tony is saying, improving. What's going to be the trend for the coming years?
But
how
do
have
we have
you
enough of them
changed?
to honor?
But before you answer that, we're going to cut to a short break. You're watching BizNews. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So, Mark, how has TOYM evolved?
I don't really think there's an evolution. It really depends on the people who submit the nominations form. So last year we had 59, and it just so happened that there are a lot of scientists who were nominated during that
Pati nga, nag-iiba
year.
na yung concept nila ng science. Dati, yung concept nila ng science, Doctor of Medicine.
Yes.
The most number of alumni of TOYM are doctors of medicine.
Yes.
Yung mga judges, di nila naintindihan kung anong ginagawa nila. So, ina-award na lang. Diba, no, Mark?
Actually,
You make a compilation of the awardees by profession. Number 1, doctors of medicine.
Okay.
Oh.
We'll try to look at that now. But now, we're hoping to make more awareness in the whole
Is yan
Philippines.
medyo abstruse and esoteric yung ano? Linya? Microbiology, neuroscience ba? Chemistry, mga PhD.
So, what are you trying to change?
So we're hoping to have more entries for this year, and we'll probably get a nominee who has a field that we haven't even heard of, and probably can honor him since maybe we can say that it's an evolving
something
as
about
regards
outer space siguro, di ba?
probably
O
yeah.
afterlife.
Since or in terms of computer innovations or something like that. So we're hoping to get more nominees, whatever is
Dapat
the
yung
trend.
si Dado Banatao, nung bata pa siya, kinapture na ninyo, di ba? Silicon Valley guy.
Silicon. Okay, probably.
Di ba?
Make the Filipino proud, no?
So, saka, Doc, ngayong dalawa, parehong scientist. So, ito ba, the Philippines has one of the lowest ratios of R&D spending?
I don't know about
Diba?
R&D spending.
Diba normally, pag
ang alam ko is
we want to be a progressive, industrialized, rich country,
10%.
10%,
ang sinasabi
kala
nila.
ko 4%.
I don't know ngayon kung anong R&D spending, but I worked for government 10 years ago. And one thing that, one of the reasons why I left the country is I cannot do my research here because there's no money. Now when I came back, the UST has transformed.
May meron na research dito?
Ang lalaki ng pera sa science.
Sa research?
Oh, that's
Yes,
cool.
Project NOAA received like 1.5 billion or more.
ganun.
LiDAR, 1.5
Ano yung
billion.
LiDAR?
It's they have an airplane and then they develop maps of
Ano? Ang tawag
landscape. LiDAR, light and detection.
I think also that the government is giving more emphasis on science and technology now, and because I think they've come to realize that the level of development of an economy is very much dependent on its scientific research and development endeavors.
And there are more patents now being produced.
More patents.
They actually, the patent office now has made 1,000 free patent applications.
1,000?
They provided 1,000 free patent.
Wow, free.
Yung naging
For free.
generic na?
No, they
Free.
wanted
They
the people
waived
to
the royalty.
they waived the
the
patent
fees.
application fees.
Okay,
Kasi we
Anong
have
fields yung mga patented na work?
any field. So they want the Philippines, the Filipino scientists, to produce patentable products. We have very low patent generation, 800 a year compared to Malaysia, around 8,000.
8,000, 10 times, ha? Ikaw, have you had any patented work?
I have a study that became a basis for a patent. It's an anti-aging vaccine.
Anti-aging
That was
vaccine.
part of my dissertation.
Ba't interesado ka sa anti-aging? To me,
Siyempre,
people should age kasi it's part of the natural process of replenishment.
Or age gracefully.
yes, you can age. My belief is you don't need to extend lifespan. You want to extend quality life.
Yes, that's right.
And with the new technologies now, stem cells, we have all the boon in medicine. They say that the person who can get to live more than 200 years is already born.
200 years? Ano ba ang longest living
Well, I think mga
Human.
112, 120. It's
112?
by French girl.
Tingin ko
Naging
pag
friend pa
nakarat-
niya si Van Gogh.
Oh my
Doc.
God, can you imagine?
Ngayon, pag nakarating ka sa century mark, is punishment.
But you know, ang amazing dyan, they were studying super centenarians, more than 110. You're already resistant to heart attacks, you're resistant to cancer, you're resistant
Pag
to
nakalagpas
Alzheimer's.
ka sa century mark?
Nag-iba na yung spectrum of disease mo. You will not die of the regular diseases. Nagkaroon ng new trend in disease. May bago na silang disease na discover among centenarians. So they're now developing ways to cure that disease so that you can
Anong
have
disease niyan?
transthyretin,
love despondent, ganun? Siguro yun,
transthyretin
no?
amyloidosis.
What's that?
It's a particular protein that develops in the brain, nagka-clog, basta nasisira yung brain mo,
Amyloidosis, that
nasisira
means inflammation.
inflammation, at saka nagpo-form siya amyloid plaques. Ang sinasabi nila heart attack, but when they looked at it, it's not heart
So
attack.
the chemicals overwhelm the brain. And
The
brain
brain
is
and the
suffocated.
body.
And
So-
since it's suffocated, it dies.
No,
and the whole body dies with it.
It gets inflamed. So, yung isang paper ko actually targets transthyretin amyloidosis, which means if we're able to solve that problem, people can extend their lives to around 160, 170, and then
160.
maghahanap na naman tayo ng bagong spectrum of disease to target.
Well, you are one of the most valuable human beings alive.
No,
Because
I'm
the
going
life
to
of-
basic
the life of-
research. Mahirap
Pero
po kasi.
living in the Philippines, do you like to live beyond 100 years? Kasi someone said, the best way to live the Philippines, live in the Philippines, is leave the Philippines. Go away.
Hindi naman.
Di naman,
Kaya nga may mga balik scientist tayo, they
Oo
come
nga siya.
back.
Ba't ka bumalik?
Siyempre, iba, pag nasa abroad ka, you're just, sabi ko sa mga friends ko, you're just a pail in a bucket. It's a pail a pebble in an ocean.
Yeah.
Normal ka lang doon.
Dito, you're the ocean itself.
No, you're a cobble in a pail.
You're a rock.
Lahat ng
You're a bigger
pwede mong
stone.
gawin mo
Yeah.
dito, masaya ka kasi meron kang nakikitang
You
impact
mean
sa
appreciate
society.
kayong mga scientists dito?
It's
Kasi
getting
dito-
better now, I think.
Kasi dito,
Yeah.
mas marami pang interesado sa
Hindi,
broken nose
hindi
ni
important-
Bong
hindi-
Navarro kaysa sa mga broken cells.
Hindi importante ang ma-appreciate kami.
Ah.
Importante is ma-appreciate namin yung mga ginagawa naming impact sa society. If I go, like, nung bumalik ako, punta ako sa Tarlac State University, nagturo ako sa RTU. Nung nakita ko nakapag-publish yung estudyante ko, ang saya-saya ko.
May dissertation siya.
No, ang undergrad lang yung naging estudyante ko. Yung sa Tarlac ko, we produced 3 international papers, and they were now cited. Yung joy mo doon na nakakita ka ng estudyante na mahirap, na we did computational biology work na walang computer yung estudyante, na ginawa lang yung
Kinamay lang niya?
Internet cafe niya, ginawa yung thesis niya. Ang saya-saya ng feeling mo. So, those things, hindi mo siya pwedeng pantay ng pera. And if you're abroad, you might be earning like $4,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 a month. Dito, you're not even a fraction of it. So, when they ask for my fee, sabi ko, it's either I'm priceless or I'm free.
Ganun pala.
But you know what's common, Mark, that we see amongst the especially the gentlemen that we have here.
Precisely that they were not after anything in return. So they're happy when they see they're being able to help people. They are
Doing
able to help the
really
society.
something for the country, no?
Yes, for the community, even one by one or as a whole in the society. So that's why we really look up to these people, to our honorees, and we really would like our members to be more like them, to have more impact in our society.
Si Doctor sa food. Totoo ba 90% of our restaurants are dirty?
Well, I cannot.
Beyond belief.
Well, I cannot say that, but with the ratification of the National Food Safety Act, I think it's going to be better. Because in this
Di ba
new...
that kind of act, yung regulatory act, mga nakakaduda yun kasi lagay na naman yun.
Well-
Inspection, permit,
I
mga
cannot.
ganyan. No?
I think it's going to be stricter because
Mukha
meron
ng
ng
mga
mga
transportation ano natin.
we
Ang
we
daming
punish
inspection
people
sa
now
permit. Yung pala,
if people
they are not
do
even
not follow.
inspected and they are given the permit. Ihanap
That's
buhay na
another
naman yan.
problem.
Yeah.
Really.
But as consumers, so how do we protect ourselves from
Bad food, from bad food.
But
Poison
before
food.
before you answer that, I want to
Dirty
cut
food,
to a
yeah.
short break. You're watching BizNews. We'll be right back.
Robert, no.
Welcome back. So, Doc, very quickly, how do we defend ourselves?
Okay, like what I
Protect-
always say, to my students and to those I train, food safety is a shared responsibility. It's a responsibility of the people who produce our food, people who handle our food, and of us. When we buy food, we take care of it. Until we have this farm to fork model. From the farm to fork, we have to take care of the food. So we have to handle our food with care. We have to practice food hygiene, proper personal
Pagpasok mo sa
hygiene.
isang restaurant, Doc, what are the signs that the restaurant is dirty? Aside from the bad toilet with no water.
Yeah. This is one very good sign.
Indicator.
The hot foods of viands, rice should always be hot.
Hot?
If they are served to you that are not foods
Pag
that should
warm.
supposed to be
Yeah.
hot. Pagka
Sabi
hindi
mo, food that
malamig.
has stayed for more than 4 hours is bad.
Yes.
You should throw that out already.
Yeah, restaurants should always monitor the temperature of the food. This is part of the HACCP, Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point, that we teach our students. They have to monitor the temperature of the food. If it's not within this temperature range that we recommend, they only have 4 hours.
Usually,
After
eat
that, they
all
have
you can
to discard.
The buffet is
nakaamba lang ng
yeah.
4 hours.
Exactly. So-
Bad food yun.
No, not really. But in the buffets, you should see chafing dishes.
Yes.
Those dishes with
So they
fire.
should have-
Yeah,
yes.
and there should be
Ang
temperature
maganda kung merong
monitoring.
apoy sa
Chafing
ilalim.
dish.
Yes, yes.
Yung stainless
And the
na
cold
lalagyan.
foods like salads, desserts should always be cold. So that's one very easy way to determine whether a restaurant
You're
follows.
young people, di ba? Outstanding young men. So, hope of the fatherland. Anong hopes mo for the country? Anong future ng country natin with our kind of politicians?
future ng country natin with that kind of politicians.
Yep.
Well, I'm expecting that mag-improve na yung political climate. And, well, yung prediction, yung nakikita ko that there's improved appreciation of science in government. Well, I see a bright future.
A bright
and we have a
future.
lot of people. We have kung magkaroon lang tayo ng support sa science and good infrastructure, all our scientists, engineers who are working abroad and doing good abroad,
Babalik sila.
they'll come back.
Ikaw naman, Al, anong outlook
Basically,
mo sa
same
country?
rin, no? Recently, I had this proposal at the DOST, and I met some people who were actually being granted research funds, and I can say that it's getting better, really. The government is recognizing slowly but surely the importance of science in a developing country such as ours. So I think it's going to be good if we'll continue supporting sciences and also other fields such as Ivan.
Si Ivan naman, may hope ba na ma-preserve ang heritage natin?
Well, makikita naman natin yan kapag pumasok na yung mga turista. No? Alam mo naman,
yes.
kapag pumasok ang business, kapag pumasok ang mga investors, kasi yan yung pupuntahan ng mga turista, yung natural and cultural
Pero
heritage
iba sa
natin.
Bohol, hindi naman yan pinupuntahan nila yung lumang simbahan nung malapit ng Magiba o Nagiba na. Pinupuntahan nila yung Tarsier. Kinukutingting nila. Yung
Bawal yan,
Chocolate
bawal
Hills.
yan. Hindi pala
Diba?
tinutingting
Chocolate
yan.
Hills. Yung so-called man-made forest. And the beach.
Well, kasama yan
Bihira
sa
pupunta
total
sa
package.
charts.
Yeah, kasama yan sa package. In fact, it's
Tapos meron sila doon na blood compact. 2 lugar.
well,
Can you imagine that single incident? They were in 2 different locations.
The-
They
may-
happened
well,
at the same
sige,
time.
on the specific dun sa blood compact, na-discover nila na mali yung kinalalagyan ng original monument.
Oh.
So, they corrected it.
Oh.
So, dapat actually isa lang siya.
Mas maganda yung monument ng fake, Fake na blood compact.
But
Diba?
there's hope, Ivan. for
There
us.
is. I mean,
Diba,
and
Ivan, mas maganda yung monument ng fake? Made of brass and monuments.
Gawa pa ni-
Samantalang isang
gawa pa nila
may
po
maliit na
nila
well
yung,
doon.
yung original. But yes, there is hope for heritage, and we will start understanding that when we realize that this is actually for our economic growth, people will come to the Philippines to
Yes.
Okay.
Experience our
There's
heritage.
hope for this country,
Yeah.
and thanks to JC for promoting this kind of men,
Thank you.
honoring them, putting them in the pantheon of our heroes.
Thank you for having us here and letting the people know that
And
we have
they'll
such
be the
honorees.
benchmark.
And congratulations.
Congratulations and more power. We
There is hope
persevere,
in
no?
this country.
Yeah. All right, you watch another episode of BizNews. I'm Elizabeth Lee together with Tony Lopez. See us every Monday at 7 p.m. We'll see you again next week. Have a good night. God bless. Thanks for watching.